Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Metal Show.
Are you high?
What
are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
Give me a break.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
All right, welcome to another Full Melt Show. Today is going to be Thursday. Yeah. The question for you today is, how dedicated are you to your principles? You know, I had this conversation most often with my dad. Now, I love my dad, but my dad is a stubborn bastard. And he doesn't really give a crap about a lot of stuff. He just knows how he feels, and he's kind of a simple guy. Got a little entanglement here. Jeez. There we go. That's better. My dad likes to bitch a lot, especially about politics. Oh, that's so-and-so again. Oh, that thanks to so-and-so, this is going on. And this tells me two things. Number one, that he knows about what's going on. Like, it's not like it's going by him and he's not paying attention to what's happening and he just wants to bitch in general. He knows what's happening. He knows who's in control of it. He knows what's going on. He's paying attention. And he wants to bitch about it. So-and-so didn't do this and so-and-so didn't do that. So one day I got tired of hearing my dad bitch about politics. And I said, look, Dad, because I've never seen him vote before, right? I've never seen him go, hey, I'm going down to vote now, or are you going to be at the voting booth later? He never said anything like that to me. And so the answer to his question, when I said, Dad, do you even vote? Hell no, I ain't voting. Well, why would you not vote? Well, it doesn't mean anything anyways. It's all rigged. And see, this is the sentiment with most people in general. They become disenfranchised with their government, and then it's easier for the government to become more corrupt. You see, if there's nobody opposing you, and especially if you lose interest, and it's, they're going to do what they want to do anyways, what I have to say doesn't matter, like my dad does, then they just get to do what they want, right? You're winning by default. You're not showing up in the boxing match. You're not even in the spectator ring. You're not in the audience, and you're not in the boxing ring. You're outside the building or someplace else. And if you don't show up for the fight, you lose by default. I mean, that's how that works. Doesn't matter if you tripped and stubbed your toe and you're in the hospital. If you don't show up to fight, by default, you lose. And it's this way across the board with everything in life. If you don't put up a fight, you're going to lose. By definition, right? And so I always used to tell my dad, light a cigarette now. I used to tell my dad that, you can't bitch. You see, if you don't go vote, you don't get the right to bitch because you're not going to engage. If I could see how I go to vote every time and it doesn't matter anyways, then you got a right to bitch. Because you went and said your piece, you had your say. But as long as you don't go vote, you're not engaged. Your point of view doesn't count. How you feel about things simply doesn't matter because you never showed up in the ring. You lose by default. And if enough people do the same thing, and frequently we do, we've got a very small percentage of people in this country that actually vote, even amongst the registered voters. A lot of people just don't vote. For the same reason. They feel disenfranchised with their government. They're unengaged because they don't believe in their government. They believe their government has failed. And the more that you believe that and the more you let it happen, the more it is so. I keep quoting Abraham Lincoln, who once said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So if you kind of use that frame of mind and put it on this subject, you'll understand why I have a problem with my dad bitching when he won't go engage and vote. Because the best way that he can ensure his future is to create it by participating in the only way that you've got to control your government, and that's to have a say in your elected representation. But see, the corruption of government goes beyond elective representation because we no longer have a system where we're picking our electors. We're not picking the people, no, not the electors. We're not picking our politicians. We're not picking the people who are selected to represent us. And I say selected loosely because that's not what's happening. Now they've subverted the system so that they get to pick their voters. If there aren't enough people in your district to get you into office, we'll just redraw the district so that it includes all the people that you need to get you voted in. That's how they do it. That's the dirty grind of politics. That's the thing. If you don't want to see the sausage being made, get out of the kitchen, and so many people do. You can't do that, though. You can't do that because, number one, if you're going to eat that sausage, you better know how it got made, and you better man up and watch it being made so that maybe you can have a decision about, wants and needs and what's good for you and what's bad for you based on what you saw going into it, not based on how it tasted. Because there's a lot of things that taste great. There's a lot of things that are great to consume, but when you do, are bad. Especially if you do it in what are the words I'm looking for here? Mass quantity. You do it in large consumption. If you're gluttonous, that's what I'm thinking about. So what's the point? What's the point if you don't go down and participate with your government? Are you just going to just let whatever happens happen? I mean, is that the way you want to deal with it? Because so many people do. Are you one of those guys? I don't want to hear you bitching when the governor doesn't do something that you think should be done, or when the police do something. No, so you don't get to elect the police, but you get to elect people in your county. County commissioners are elected, right? Those are the guys in charge of the county. Those are the guys that put together the budget for the police. And if there's a problem with the police department, let's say the sheriff's department in the county, it's the county commissioners you got to go talk to, right? You can elect those guys. You can elect your township officials or your town officials, your city officials, your parish officials. Those are all electable officials. And they have a direct control about what you can do and what you can't do wherever you live. Why would you not engage these people? Why would you not want to understand who they were and how they were in control of it? I'll tell you what. If you saw the dots connected between what their role is and how it directly affects you, you would want to have a say, and you would want to be very particular about that say. But see, because you can't connect those dots, and you don't believe that whatever that dot connection is matters anyways because they're going to do whatever they're going to do and you can't do anything about it, you're just throwing in the towel. And shame on you. Because you're besmirching the reputation and the valor of every single soldier that ever fought on foreign lands for your rights. That's how I feel about it. I feel the same way if you don't participate in the jury pool system. Find a way to get out of the jury pool. Oh, I go to that damn jury pool. Boring as fuck in there. That's how they feel about it. You know what? You're right. It is boring as hell. But you need to go in there and do the thing that your citizenship requires, which is to participate in your government. If you don't, you're just letting the people that do control you. And if there is any say to be had, you're giving it away. And you're telling all those soldiers that fight for these rights, these freedoms that we have as Americans in this country, that your blood and your sacrifice doesn't matter. That's what you're telling them. If you went and you fought on foreign lands because you believe that you should stand up and do your part for your country, right? That's what these soldiers do. They place their lives in jeopardy so that you may not be in jeopardy, so that you may have freedoms. They're fighting for you on your behalf as your American soldier. That's what they're over there doing. And if you didn't enjoy rights that Americans have, they shouldn't be over there fighting for you. You should just let other countries take control. It'll never happen here. Because those that do participate in this government, those that do see how the government really works and are very skilled in understanding the inner tickings of how the system is put together and how to tinker with it, how to screw with it, how to make it fall in their favor. They're busy pouring all their big, money that's made through this system into protecting their piece of that pie because it's what's making their money. They don't care that vast citizens go without because you made your money. That's the wonderful world of capitalism. I have nothing against capitalism. But when you take any system or form of government, and take it to its extreme, and there's no checks and balances to bring it back to the center, it's unbalanced. It's like a wheel with all the weight at one side. It's gonna eventually work itself off of its sprocket. It needs to be a balanced wheel. That's why you go have your tires balanced so that your car doesn't vibrate all over the place and make you lose control. This country's tires are unbalanced. And the corruption created by that unbalance because people aren't engaged. I just wanted to slap my dad when he told me he wasn't going to go vote. He wanted to bitch nonetheless. Look, you're wasting your energy in that gripe. Go spend some of that energy in going down to the voting booth and pulling that lever. And if you can't do that because you didn't register, for fuck's sake, go down and register. I mean, I get heated about this. Because if you don't take control, you give up control. And the people with the money are going to put you to the grind because they can. That's how it works in this country. We don't care about the poor. We don't care about the people who aren't engaged. We don't care about the people who didn't have their say. Because the ones that did are now going to exert that say against you and for their benefit, regardless of your circumstance, regardless of your condition, regardless of how poor and vulnerable you might be. And this extends down to children and the elderly. They're the ones that get the worst of this. And the disabled, they get even worse than that. And if you happen to be one of the severely handicapped, the severely developmentally disabled, either physically or mentally, boy, you just get the shittiest end of the stick available. You load on the crap on that part of the stick because, oh no, this is going to somebody who's really disabled. They can't speak up for themselves. We're just going to give them the crappiest turd they can eat. No, feed it to them. Force it down. That's how it is in this country. So when we come back from the break, I want to talk a little bit about judicial corruption in particular and examine it, pick it apart, pull it apart, and look at it and sniff it really good. Because that's meat in that refrigerator that stinks to high heaven is what it is. I mean, there's something in that refrigerator when you open it up. Oh, God, that really reeks. And I'm telling you, that stench is judicial and police corruption. And the prosecutors are mixed in there, too. They're all tied together, and they're wringing out your laundry for their favor. Airing your laundry and then putting on those clothes because they're going to leave you naked. That's what they're there to do. You're getting the full melt.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law at RudoyLaw.com. RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana and up-to-date news. That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions. Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
We need coffee.
Got it right here.
Cups.
12-ounce, 8-ounce recyclable.
Creamers, sweeteners, stirrers, filters.
Creamer, sweetener, stirrers, filters, K-Cups.
Hazelnut, French vanilla, French roast, dark, light, medium, bold, extra bold.
And decaf.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
No reason.
Free shipping for awards members every day. Staples. Make more happen.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
And we're normally here Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Steve Green, your host. And you can find us at thefullmelt.com, of course. But right there at the top of the page, click and subscribe to our iTunes feed. Get your stuff right there in your iTunes folder if you happen to like this program. And we do this show every day of the week, so we hope you do. So we're talking about judicial corruption, police corruption, prosecutorial corruption, also just corruption in general. The core of our country has started to turn dark and get stinky. It's only because we've allowed it to. I mean, we've fostered this. We've fed that fire. And the truth of the matter is, somebody needs to stop it, because this is a piece of fruit you don't want to bite into. It looks great on the outside. When you bite into it, you're going to be terribly sorry because it's full of worms and it's rotten in there. It's nasty. And this is why people are disengaged with this country. This is why people like Donald Trump can make such a big stink about things and be offensive and get a lot of people agreeing with him, even if the things that he says are outlandish and psychopathic. And then you get the other end of things. You get somebody like Bernie Sanders, who I'm completely behind, incidentally. If you want to see my political feathers, I'm behind Bernie Sanders. You know, I loved Hillary Clinton's husband. Not such a fan of Hillary. I'd have nothing against her, except that she's in the pocket of Big Pharma and the banks, who've always been a problem in my book. Bernie understands this and is opposed to those positions. Hasn't taken money from those people. She's taken a lot of money from those people. Don't tell me she's not doing political favors when she gets up into office there. She's been promising it to them for decades now. It's planned. It's part of the plan. That's why it's so hard for somebody like Sanders, who people like, to get something done. But Sanders is at the other extreme. And so you get the other end of the radical guys, right? And this makes it easy to call Trump a buffoon and crazy and office rocker and, a moonbat and, 3 quarts short of a gallon. Because that's what he is. When he starts professing these things that are near impossibilities and are likely never to occur. You can promise the world away, but when you get in office, you better know how to pull that stuff off, and you better have a plan to pay for it. And you better have some alliances, some political capital to spend, because you cannot do it on your own. You're only one branch of government. You've got to sign it, but the legislative branch has to agree to it and write it and create it and craft it and put it on your desk. You only get to sign what they give you. Now, if you're in control of both parties, right? If you're in control of everything, as one party or another, then the president can easily dictate to Congress what he wants because he's the leader of their party. He is literally the head of their party. And that's how it was during the Bush years. Bush the second, George W., who can't say nuclear. I got to say nuclear because I don't know what nuclear is. It's nuclear. George W. Shooting from the hip. Pow, pow. Mr. George W. had control of both houses of Congress, Senate and the House. Those were majorities through the vast portion of his presidential tenure. Same was true with Mr. Bush, his, H.W., George Herbert Walker Bush, his daddy, under the same circumstances. President Ronald Reagan also in similar circumstances. The only time that this flip-flopped was when President Clinton got into office, and it got even more staunch with Republicans. It was nearly always gridlocked because he was the exact opposite. He did not have control. He couldn't tell Congress what to do. But he could make friends with them. Old Bill Clinton, old Slick Willie, he was good at making friends with people. I loved Bill Clinton. I didn't like the fact that he was putting a lot of people in prison. I didn't like the fact, but he was doing this to rub up to the right wing edge, right? He wasn't as popular as he was because he was only in the middle or only on the left. He was broad, so he incorporated some of those ideas. This is what you do as a leader. I think he did more good than bad. Let's put it that way. Given the choice of somebody like President Clinton or one of the Bushes, or Reagan, I will always pick somebody or Obama. I'd always pick somebody like Clinton, or Obama. I'm definitely going to lean in that direction because at least they're looking out for. At least they profess a place for the people who are poor, for the people who don't have any opportunity. America's supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, a place of opportunity in this world. It's really more fiction and past than it is present and autobiographical or I guess, nonfiction. Now, where does this, what corruption do you speak of? Green, what are you talking about? I hear all this crap about corruption. You've given me no examples. You've given me no detail. Tell me some detail. That, my friend, I have for you. All kinds of detail. I think an easy place to highlight corruption on the judicial level, firstly, is the point of view. Let's just start with background, okay? Let's give it some, before we start pointing at particular cases, let's start with background. Understand that a lot of Uncle Sam's taxation arm, the long arm of the IRS, is hidden in the hands of other shorter arms. And what I mean by that is, when you go down there and you buy a stamp, a postage stamp, that's a tax. It's a government-run company, the post office. They're federal employees. You're paying a tax to send your mail. It doesn't look like a tax. It's a stamp. It's still a tax. But if you go to the park and you have to enter the park, there's a booth there, and you got to have a sticker on your window which says that you paid a fee in order to enjoy that park's privileges. That is a tax. They say it's a fee, but it is indeed a tax. When you got a ticket, right? When you got a ticket for speeding, or you got a ticket for a no turn on red, or you got a ticket for an illegal U-turn, or you got a ticket for, defective equipment. All those traffic tickets, they're all just taxes. They call it a ticket, but it's really not a ticket, because if it was a ticket, it would just be a thing to show up in court and answer to your problem. Answer to the complaint. But it's not. It's no longer about the complaint. It's no longer about public safety when you're talking about traffic tickets. It's about collecting your money. And where's the evidence of that, Mr. Green? Well, I'll tell you what. Those police officers don't give a crap one about how fast you're going down the road, about how safe those public roads are. They just don't care. If they did, they'd be out there doing that almost exclusively because there's not enough cops to police those situations. People couldn't be going 10, 15, 20 miles over the speed limit as an average if it wasn't for the fact that police were outnumbered by the number of people who are able to just hide in the crowd, and they do. So what they do instead is shoot fish in a barrel. That's what they do. They've got a quota. They know how many tickets they got to write to keep their pocketbooks happy and their coffers full and the system running well. Because it's all fed by those dollars. And those dollars come from the grind of the machine when they start feeding humans to the machine. And they do. It's just like the Romans Colosseum, throwing Christians in there. It's for the good of the people. It's for the entertainment of the people. Throw another Christian to the lions. And they did. This machine isn't for entertainment. This machine is for money. Here's another good example. There's a little tiny stretch of road near Cleveland, Ohio, in a small area. I'm trying to think of the name of the little stretch there now. It's not Lorraine. Oh, I'll figure it out. There's a little stretch. It starts Berea. Is it Berea? No, it's not Berea. There's a little stretch right there along the freeway, and it's less than a mile in length. It's about 3/4 of a mile that this little community, this little township or city or town actually exists on the expressway. It's about 3/4 of a mile in length. But the cops there decided, well, our little village is so small. It is a village, by the way. It wasn't a town or a township. It was a village, a little tiny village. And it was so small, like I said, they only occupied about 3/4 of a mile along the expressway there. That's how thin they were. But this little village got most of its primary operating income not from writing tickets to the people in the community because it's so tiny. Why would you have a police department in such a tiny community? There are many communities 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times larger than yours that don't have police departments. Why does yours need one? Well, because this little entity could feed off of that vein on the expressway. That's almost exclusively where those guys wrote tickets. They wrote no tickets inside their own community. They wrote them along the expressway because it was shooting fish in a barrel, and they could eat those fish until the cows came home. That's how the community existed. If they cared about public safety in their community, they would be out in the community. They would be probably contracting that work out to somebody else who's out for that effort to protect the citizens of the community. But instead, these cops are sitting alongside the expressway shooting fish in a barrel for the long arm of the IRS law. That's what it is. Because as long as government can grind money out of you and find ways to call things taxes or call things not taxes that are taxes and avoid them by sending companies overseas and enshrining in little corporate entities that exist on, island nations because you can avoid taxes there. We've got real problems in this country. And the people, the politicians that we elect, that we put into place to control all that stuff, if we don't keep tabs on them, if we don't make sure that they're representing us and not some other bigger interest, because that's how they got into office, then we're due to eat our own shit pie. I mean, we're making that food ourselves, and we're going to consume it, like it or not. This is not an optional dinner table meal. This is not an optional entree. This is not dessert. This is mainstay staple food that you're going to be feeding yourself from because this is the dinner you created for yourself. And there's no option not to eat it. In fact, you may be force-fed your own dinner. And that's more than often what happens. When people subvert their original cause to some other cause because the corrupt engine of money got involved. That dynamo, that dynamic started sending things askew. That engine doesn't run normally anymore. I'm full of analogy tonight. Doesn't not run normally anymore. You got to put something in there to fix it. But when you do that, it just makes it worse. And somebody comes along and tweaks the engine so that it runs, but it doesn't run in your favor. It's doing something for somebody else now. It's not going down the road anymore. Now it's turning a turnstile, which is somebody's big giant dryer over on the side there. It's not. The wheels are up off the ground. It's just now turning that engine wheel with your gas to make somebody else's things work. Some more examples. Judges. Judges are elected. And, I was recently contacted by somebody who said, look, Mr. Green, I really need your help because we're going to start we've got a people's initiative going. We're going to get an issue on the ballot. Well, what's your issue? Because a lot of people can't get those done. It's really hard to. We're doing it with medical marijuana right now. What you got going on? Well, we're going to change. We're going to add to the Constitution. We're going to actually create a new constitutional amendment in the state. And this is like trying to do like the Headley Amendment in Michigan. The Headley Amendment limited property taxes on school for school purposes. It limited it to a percentage of something. It tied it to another figure. You can't go above this. It doesn't matter what you try to elect. The state law says you can't go above this. They passed a constitutional amendment. That's how corrupt schools got at some point with, we're just going to pass more taxes. We're just going to, cost of schools went up, so we're just going to need to make more money to pay for those schools. That was not a good thing here. That's why the Headley Amendment went through. And I'm not saying that the Headley Amendment was a good thing. But this is an amendment to the Constitution I'm talking about here in Michigan. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that people who ascribe to an oath of office, that if they break that oath of office, that not only do they lose their privileges for the office, but they lose all benefits associated with it as well. You can't get a pension. You get no government benefits. Your health insurance goes out the window. If you got other savings or other 401k stuff, you lose all those benefits. And that's a good way to go. Because so many people who take an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, to do the right thing for people, because that's what that oath of office says. You are under oath. But if you break that oath, there's no punishment. You might get caught for perjury. It's a tough nut to crack. Nobody ever does it. So he wants to pass a constitutional amendment which holds offices' feet to the fire. So it doesn't matter what office you hold. If you don't do your job, and especially if you break your oath by not upholding and defending the Constitution, or in the Attorney General of our state's case, not defending the people, but going off on your own agenda. Look, we didn't elect you to run your own agenda. We elected you to defend the people and their laws. That's not what he's doing. But see, there's nothing in there. There's no teeth in there to bite him in the ass. And he can still continue to use the corruption of government to keep getting back in office and screwing everybody underneath him, which is what he's doing. Governor Snyder, he poisoned the city's water, Flint. He nearly devalued the entire property of every homeowner in the city of Flint to zero because nobody's buying a house where the water is not potable. Nobody. When are you going to buy a house in a city that's already run down in the first place and needed an emergency financial manager because, the roads aren't good and, city and, fire is not good. The police aren't good. I mean, it's really bad. But you got to have frickin' water. You can't send kids to school without any water. You can't cook your dinner, wash your stuff, take a shower without water. Clean water. It's not contaminated. But it didn't matter to those guys. And there's nobody holding their feet to the fire. They sit there and call the Fifth Amendment and say, I don't recall, and pull up the Ronnie Reagan up there in front of Congress. With Governor Snyder, he's still sitting there laughing his fat, happy, rich ass off, up there twisting the knobs of government for his benefit and those of his crony friends. It has to stop. But I've got a bigger story. A couple of stories, one tied to medical marijuana. I mean, up there in Gaylord, Michigan, at the sentencing of Al Witt, not only were the police wearing keychains that had a no marijuana leaf on them, showing the bias involved in this system. Because the police are there to enforce laws, not to make political statements. They're all making political statements in open court. But what was worse than that is this judge on his sentencing, who, by the way, sentenced him more harshly than guidelines called for. Mr. Al Witt, who's currently behind bars for being a medical marijuana dispensary operator. He didn't own the place, just working there. He actually told this guy something that you'll never forget, and I'll tell you what that is right after this break. Stand by. You're getting the full melt.
I've seen things no man should bear, and those that every man should dare. From the beaches of Normandy to the far reaches of the earth. In my life, I have lived millions of lives. I've outrun robots and danced with dinosaurs. I've faced the faces of fear and fortitude and witnessed great beauty in the making. I've kept the company of kings and queens, but I'm no royalty or saint. I've traveled, trekked, wandered, and roamed, only to find myself right where I belong.
Jeep. See your authorized Jeep retailer for details on how you can become a Jeep owner.
We asked people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be downtimes.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
RootMetrics, in the nation's largest independent study, tested wireless performance across the country. Verizon won big with 153 state wins. AT&T got 38, Sprint got 2, and T-Mobile got 0. Verizon also won first in the U.S. for data, call, speed, and reliability. AT&T got text. Stuck on an average network? Join Verizon, and we'll cover your cost to switch.
Introducing
Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dorr Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Dorr Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
Thomas says, stay home, get away from me, saying I was bad for you. He got his way.
You know, you step in front of a judge, and mind you, the judge is a guy who is an officer of the court, but he's also in charge of the court. The judge really is the court.
I'm still sober.
So am I. So if you're the judge and you're in charge of the court, and you're an officer of the court, you're held to a higher standard than other citizens are, right? They're not going to expect, as a layperson, as a citizen, as a defendant, as a plaintiff, that you're going to be held to the same standard as the judge would or any other officer of the court, including attorneys who are also considered officers of the court. And here's the thing behind that. So if you're representing yourself in, say, a civil case or even in a criminal one, and you need to get a subpoena to have somebody come in and testify in court on your behalf, especially if they're unwilling to, like they don't want to do it. They get to get served, and then they've got to do it under threat from the court that the court could send them to jail for contempt of court for not coming you're required under the law to show up when you get a subpoena. And you, as a layperson, don't have subpoena power, regardless of the fact that you're involved in a lawsuit. The only guys that have subpoena power are the attorneys and the judge. So if you want to get a subpoena done and you're representing a case, you need this information as a part of your witness package or as a part of your evidence that you may have a burden of proof to present or need to defend yourself. If you're on your own, you got to ask the judge to issue that subpoena, and he's got to actually agree with you and do it. If you're an attorney, you just get to write that thing yourself and send it off in the mail. Nobody needs to sign off. Attorney gets to do what he wants. Judge gets to do what he wants. If you're just a regular guy, you can't do it. And so this is part of why these guys are held to a higher standard. They need to rise above the appearance of impropriety, the law says. It means so that they can't even be viewed as possibly being able to be biased or to be able to be corrupted. To have predetermination with malice of forethought about how this case is going to be decided. They don't get to do that, but they do it all the time. And there's nobody to hold their feet to the fire. So when you go into court and you say what you've got to say, and you might even have made a mistake. You didn't intend to misinform the court, but you said what you thought was the truth, and it wasn't actually the truth. Now you're going to possibly be up for a perjury charge, which is a serious offense. Not that the people that took these oaths of office who are corrupted to the core don't also have that same obligation. You see, their oath was under their oath was taken as they are under oath. I mean, that's why it's called an oath. Because if you violate that oath, you should be convicted of perjury. Because you did take an oath under oath. I swore to do these things under oath. If there was no underlying oath, then people could just do what they wanted if you elected them into office. They swore to do certain things. All of them good. All of them underlying federal and state laws. Uphold the state and federal laws. Uphold the state and federal constitution. Keep people safe. Whatever the job is, whatever their job duty is, it's all right there in the oath. But it always includes upholding the Constitution. So if you go in front of a judge, you expect that the judge, being held to this higher standard, isn't going to do things that are against his level of authority. See, if a judge is not the trier of fact in a case, but in fact a jury is now the trier of fact, the judge doesn't get to have a say about innocence or guilt. The judge doesn't get to say whether the plaintiff wins or the defendant wins in a civil case. It's the jury that gets to do that. Now, what the judge tries to do so that he can have his influence on things, because he's definitely going to try and get it in there, is decide what the jury gets to hear and to punish people for saying things in front of the jury that the judge doesn't want the jury to hear. And it's all under the auspice of, we don't want to taint the jury. We don't want the jury to be biased. That's what they want to call it. But really, it's about controlling what the jury gets to understand so that they don't get to use that information in deciding their case. I think the jury ought to be open to the entire trial, to hear all these details except for the ones at sidebar. They ought to be able to hear everything that's going on in that open court. But so many times the judge will send the jury out of the courtroom so that they're out of earshot of what's going on, the mechanics about what they get to hear, what they don't get to hear. In many cases in Michigan, they never want the jury to hear about medical marijuana or to hear that there is a medical marijuana patient on drug charges, because people might get the idea that, hey, this guy's probably legitimate. We need to find him not guilty. He is a medical marijuana patient, or she. So there's just really tricky things that go on in the court. But you expect that the judge is going to adhere to, number one, the law. That's what he's there. He's an officer of the law. He has to decide how the law works and whether it applies to certain situations or not based on the law, based on the rules. The court rules dictate what the judge gets to do, what the plaintiff gets to do, what the defendant gets to do. It's all right there in the court rules, which, again, usually underscore the law. But when a judge looks you in the face and says something like this judge said to Al Witt, like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to throw a really bad sentence at you, one that's really supposed to be outside of my reach, but I'm throwing it at you anyways because I don't like you because you got off on this other charge. And you know what? That hung jury charge, the prosecutor's already threatened. He didn't say this in court, but the prosecutor's already threatened that if you get off on this other charge that they strung you up on, that they're going to retry that hung jury charge. This judge, in front of all these cops wearing their little emblems with the no medical marijuana sign on them, hanging right off the police in an open courtroom. Tell me that's not biased. They wouldn't let the people wear a T-shirt in there like that. If the judge saw that kind of key ring, just an open, jury nullification thing or something that had something positive about marijuana on there, and this was a marijuana case, he would make you remove that. He would not let you enter the courtroom, but those police were allowed in. But what he did was he stood there during Al Witt's sentencing and actually said this. The judge actually said this to Al Witt up there. I remember this is a guy that was working at a dispensary at the time. And these dispensaries were recently licensed by the city. The city said, we created some ordinance for licensing. But a multi-jurisdictional task force who doesn't get to adhere to city policy, and certainly because they're multi-jurisdictional, has some ways to get in and conduct raids on their own, autonomously, doing their own investigations as a multi-jurisdictional task force, wholly different horse than any other policing agency, comes in and says, oh, well, you know what? We're going to arrest you all guys for doing this. Doesn't matter that you guys got an ordinance. We're doing it anyways. We're arresting everybody here. We're charging you guys all with distribution, growing, processing, manufacturing, breaking medical marijuana. We're going to charge you with everything. And that's what they did with Al. But at the end of the day, because he got a hung jury on one, I think, was he acquitted of another one? I think he was acquitted of something. I don't know. I know that he was a hung jury on one issue and he was convicted on one. I don't know if he was acquitted on one. I think he was. But at the end of the day, he was only due for 30 days in jail, something like that. Judge gives him 90. It's like 3 times the price. It's a misdemeanor he was convicted of. Now they're going back. Oh, is it a felony? Might be a felony. I don't have to double check on that. And at the end of the day, the judge looked down his nose as they're locking up Mr. Witt, taking him into custody so that he can go off to the Department of Corrections, or in this case, the county clink. And he told Mr. Look, the only side effect to medical marijuana is jail. Tell me how that is not a bias in a case. You just lifted up your skirt and showed everybody that you got a big giant judge's pussy up there. That's what you did. You showed them everybody that you're not who you say you are. You don't have a dick under that robe. You got something else under there. Oh, the robe is actually disguising what you are, Mr. Judge. Shame on you. But it gets worse than that. And The part that I'm going to tell you about now is my own experience. I've had many experiences in front of judges. I've represented myself in pro per before on civil cases. Had to take a landlord to court for illegally locking me out. Even though the rent's paid, he decided to throw my stuff out at the street anyways, not give me my money back, and move somebody else into my apartment. You can't do that here in Michigan. You get treble damages. 3 times your actual damages is what you're entitled to. And so I fought this guy for 3 years, and eventually, against an attorney, beat that attorney's pants off. Because the judges in those cases were actually doing what they were supposed to do and standing up for somebody who didn't have a lawyer and giving them a little leeway, giving them a chance to defend themselves, a chance to assert. In my case, I wasn't defending myself. I was asserting a claim, an allegation that these guys broke the law. And that as breakers of the law, that I'm entitled to compensation for what they did. It took me 3 years to fight those guys. But today, actually yesterday I did this same thing. I've gone into court. And mind you, remember, I'm a journalist. I've been in a lot of these courtrooms. My family is deeply involved in the court system. At least they were. Know a lot of these judges and prosecutors and police. Not in this particular area. I go into this place because I've got a landlord trying to sue me over my service dog. You might say, Mr. Green, they can't sue you over your service dog. He's a service dog. They can't evict you for having a service dog. No pet policies don't apply. They don't get to say about this because it's a working dog. Yeah, I know. But they did it anyways. And I filed a complaint with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, and I did all this stuff, and they still pursued eviction. And so I showed up in court with, an answer to the complaint and affirmative defenses and also some motions in mind. Because it says right there on the court paper, I'm entitled to a jury trial. And that I've got to assert that right on my first response, either written or oral, whatever the first response is. And that I've got to pay the jury fee in order to get my right to a jury trial. Now, I don't know why you've got to pay a jury fee. Well, again, this is a tax to get your rights. Some rights you don't get unless you pay the tax or unless you're wealthy enough to enjoy them. This is how rotten the legal system is. Wealthy people get what they want in the legal system. Poor people can't afford to participate in the system. So, better example of that. Mr. Judge, I'm entitled to an attorney. I'm in pro per right now. I'd really rather have an attorney. Can I get an attorney? Can I get an adjournment for an attorney? No, we're going to deny that motion. How about let's adjourn this for a week so I can get my affairs in order. Nope, not going to do that. How about the plaintiff has no opportunity to prove his case. He's got the burden of proof. There's no evidence to admit here. I want a summary disposition. He can't make his burden of proof. Nope, we're batting that down too. I'll tell you the really amazing things and how corrupt this judge is next.
You're getting the full melt.
Promotional consideration provided by NoSmell.com, pioneering the storage market for cannabis users. The NoSmell patented bag technology offers users 100% smell-proof detection from even the most sophisticated of noses. NoSmell.com, so nobody knows. When placing your order for a NoSmell bag, make sure to use discount code FULLMELT and take 10% off the entire order. Learn more about NoSmell technology at NoSmell.com.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the Allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
So there I am standing at the counter with my service dog. Now, there's a plan behind the service dog bringing him into the courtroom there because everybody can plainly see that this dog is not what the plaintiff wants to say the dog is. There's something they want to say that this dog is vicious and aggressive and might bite somebody. This is an aggressive dog. The breed says he's aggressive. It's all nonsense. Listen, first off, you people that think that a breed of a dog is different from another breed of a dog by way of aggression, you're all fooling yourselves. You know not what you're talking about. Oh, I've heard people that are just absolutely certain that somehow pit bulls, statistically, are more aggressive and more dangerous than other dogs and ought be not allowed in the community at large ever. None of that is true. None of it. A dog is just as powerful as any other dog of the same size. If you got a pit bull and he's the same size and weight as a Labrador Retriever, is the same size and weight as a German Shepherd, is the same size and weight as any other dog in that size category. Equally as powerful, equally as dangerous. Let's just get that fallacy out of the way right away, because I can take any of those dogs, if they were aggressive, and make them non-aggressive. If they were not aggressive, I could make them aggressive. I would never do that. I'm a dog trainer. I'm a dog handler. Have been for a long time. I know dog psychology. I know how to do things with dogs that a lot of people maybe don't understand how to do, because most people treat dogs like they're a person. They try to empathize with the dog as a person. You know, they try to comfort the dog when the dog is upset or the dog is absolutely not in a normal state, is somehow excited or somehow upset or somehow growling or angry. You don't pet a dog like that, because you're just reinforcing a bad behavior. The dog is doing something you don't want him to do, and by petting, you're telling him this is okay, this is what we want you to do. See, if a kid's got a problem, the kid falls and bumps his knee or does what, you comfort the kid. You console the kid because the kid can understand your consolation. He's got that capacity. Mom or dad is making it better. Even though that's not what's happening, I just kissed it and made it better. Just the fact that you're there consoling them makes them feel better. This is a human trait. It is not the trait of a dog. If you do this with a dog, you're going to tell the dog that it's okay to be hurt. It's okay to be broken. It's okay to be unbalanced. So in the long run, I understand about dogs. And if I'm going to be kicked out over my service dog, my perfectly happy, healthy, non-aggressive, friendly lick dog will lick your face off, never bitten a person or growled at a person or lurched at a person or another pet. The only time this dog has ever done anything bad is when another dog bites him. And then he's going to, now you can't train for that. So I'm here defending this issue, and I go to the counter at the court, and I'm like, young lady, this is my case number. I need to know which court I'm in and who I got to talk to. And so she tells me where, and this kind of thing. You're over there. It's room number 10. You got to meet with the lawyer over there. It's a pretrial conference. You had to go there first. And I'm like, well, listen, on my first response to the court, by court rule, on my first response to the court, either oral or written, however I respond, my first response, I have to pay the jury fee, and or I lose that right. Because I want a jury trial. I don't want the judge to be making the decisions in this matter. And I do this for a reason. Because I know the judges are corrupt here. I didn't know they were this corrupt here in this particular place. But I didn't want the judge to be taking away rights because he could. Because he had that power Despite the fact that I enjoy those rights, I can't enjoy them if the judge doesn't allow me that opportunity. This is why they control what the jury gets to hear, right? And if I take the power of the judge away to control the outcome of this situation by giving that trier of fact position to a jury instead of him, then he doesn't get to control this trial, and he doesn't like that. So he's got a standing order somewhere that tells the court administrator, the court clerk, to not accept my jury fee, and that's exactly what happened. She told me I couldn't take the jury fee. So I'm like, why aren't you taking my jury? No, you and the other lawyer, you and the other opposing party have to come up here together and you can pay the jury fee. And I'm like, no. The other party doesn't get to say whether he can have a jury trial too, and he would have to pay that fee as well, independent of me. But he doesn't want a jury trial. I'm the one asking for the jury trial. He has no say in whether or not I get a jury trial. That's my matter of right. I want to pay the jury trial fee so I can enjoy that right. Will you please take my $50 fee? No, I can't take it from you. You got to go have your pretrial conference. So now I don't know if this lady's ever going to, I don't know her name. I don't know what she was standing at this counter. How many employees are, I mean, how are you going to find this person again to prove that they wouldn't take your jury money? Well, I'm just going to say this openly in court. So it's on the court record. And that's what I did. So, but it wasn't until after I asked for an attorney or after I asked for an adjournment so that I could get an attorney there, because I did have an attorney that was willing to come that day, but he had just gotten back from a long vacation that early that morning and had no capacity to be there for me. So that's why you get an adjournment and your attorney's not available. No, we're not going to let you have, I'm going to deny all those motions, your motion for summary disposition, your motion for adjournment, your motion for, I also moved for, adjournment, summary disposition, and something else. Oh, crap, I forgot. Anyways, there were 3 motions. He squashed them all. No, I'm going to deny all those motions. And so, how do you answer the complaint? So I answered these things in order. The complaint wasn't written in a normal way. Normally in the complaint you say, this is the statement number 1, this fact. Statement number 2, this fact. Statement number 3, this fact. And usually they go in order so that they all make sense. But this was just a paragraph on a form. And so I had to break it down into 4 parts. So I answered each complaint issue one by one, denying them all and saying why I was denying them. And then you've got an opportunity to, when you answer a complaint like this, to assert affirmative defenses if you're a defendant. And so I did. And then you also have an opportunity to counterclaim, which I also did. But I orated these things. I said them orally, which I'm allowed to do by court rule, but not until after I objected to and wanted to delay the trial, because that's what's going on here. They call it a hearing, but this is really a trial. And there are issues of fact at a trial. They're the things that are complained about, the things that I denied, the things that they said are allegations at the top of the page, that paragraph that I broke up into 4 specific points to answer because they didn't do that for me. So now that I'm forced to deal with these issues, I assert my affirmative defenses, saying the Americans with Disabilities Act applies, the Fair Housing Act applies, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 applies. They all have control over this issue. These are federal laws. They supersede state law, which seems to be absent in this place. But they are just as effective nonetheless, and I stand within them. And so as the dog's a service dog, and he's an emotional support dog, and I have documentation for all of that stuff. Now, mind you, an attorney for any party can't give testimony. They can only argue legal theory. They can only help you process the case through in your favor, defending you from a legal argument standpoint. They can't testify in the case. They're not a party to the case. They're just representing a party to the case. So there's no possible way that the judge didn't trample my rights with the thing with an attorney. It's clearly he trampled my rights. Judge, I tried to pay for the attorney fee, but they were for the jury trial fee, because I want a jury trial. I demand a jury trial, and I tried to pay the fee to the court clerk, but the court clerk refused to accept my funds. And then instead of letting the judge respond, the opposing counsel said, no, the judge has to decide whether there's an issue of fact for the jury to try or not. I don't think there's an issue of fact. Well, it seems to me the issue of facts, Your Honor, are the issues complained about on the complaint. Because if they weren't issues of fact, if they were just a matter of law, there would already be a judgment entered. So they're issues of fact, and they got to be argued at trial, and the only way to argue them is to argue them. And the only way that you can meet your burden of proof is to submit evidence. No evidence has been submitted because nobody's talked here except for the opposing counsel, who's the plaintiff in this case and has the burden of proof. So how in the world can the plaintiff meet their burden of proof if the only evidence offered was none? The only evidence available was hearsay. And it wasn't entered into evidence because, again, it was hearsay, not admissible. So nobody testified. They didn't call any witnesses. They only referred to statements that are also hearsay and inadmissible. So there's no way they could meet their burden of proof with saying that I had a dangerous dog. Judge says, no, I'm denying all your motions, and I don't see an issue of fact for the jury to try. Really, Judge? So he denied that motion, or he granted the plaintiff's relief by granting the possession. They've effectively dispossessed me of my property and evicted me from my home over my service dog by trampling my rights. Appeal on board. Details next week.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.